Seasonal depression is real. But then again, also personal winters are as well. Even if you aren't finding yourself having fallen into a deep depression during certain seasons, maybe you have noticed in certain seasons you just find it harder to do things, harder to move. Whether that difficulty comes from being sparked by loss or heartbreak or illness or a major life shift, it's just challenging to move sometimes. The causes don't matter. The end result and the effort that we need to put into each day is very, very real. And so in today's episode, we're going to talk about the tools, the truth, and the tenderness that's required to move through winter and not try to escape these personal winters or these moments where we are faced with those difficult challenges and feels so hard for us to not just want to bypass and push and live in our masculine, which is something that I did for years. Welcome back. If this is your first time here, I'm Jasmine Vialese, and I'm so excited that you have made it here to this space. We are now streaming this episode and all future episodes, hopefully, to YouTube as well. So you will have access to the video if you are like me and prefer to watch video podcast over audio alone. So, in this conversation, we are kicking off a discussion around personal winters and helping you hopefully prepare for whatever this season is that's just a little bit more difficult for you to navigate. For me, that season has always been winter, which is partly why I sought to escape the harshness of winter in the Northeast. However, it might be different for you. You might find yourself thick in the heat and humidity of summer, and that being a really hard season for you to navigate challenges. And so, oftentimes, we find ourselves in the harshness of life or the difficulties of life. And when they're amplified by external circumstances or outside circumstances, such as the seasons and perhaps other people's personal seasons, those things can make it a little bit more difficult for us to navigate the challenges of our own. And so for me, my experience for this past winter was exactly that. I had the difficulties of my own experience with winter. And then I had the harshness of this season that I had created for myself as an opportunity to separate from something I had been doing for 22 years. I released my very last client for operational support in healthcare finance in December of 2024. And that sparked a host of emotions that I did not even know existed inside of me. Some of those emotions were sadness and moments of kind of despair and disillusionment, and definitely imposter creeping back in, and me recognizing that I really was afraid. I was afraid of coming to this version of myself that I knew to be the real and true version of me. However, it was scary because it's something that I had kind of tucked down deep inside and only let come to the surface in little spurts and moments. And so now I'm planning to spend all of my days and existence in this version of myself that is my deepest layer to this point, which I believe that we're always uncovering newer layers of ourselves and learning how to appreciate those new layers each and every day. But it was truly going to be my first most vulnerable experience with showing up fully and authentically me in the world and letting people see that side of me. And I say letting people, I mean like people like you see that side of me, which is scary. But I know that this is something that I'm called to, not just because I like to talk, but really because I love to inspire others to do something about their difficulties and challenges and find a deeper meaning and a more fulfilling life experience and truly tap into what it means to experience joy in this life. We have such a short time on this planet. And so my desire is to have an experience that feels good to my spirit, to my soul. And because I've been navigating that my entire life and trying to find a way to deepen that experience, I have been called to share those experiences with you and hopefully inspire you to navigate a little bit more of your own, what I like to call experiment. And we'll talk more about why I call it an experiment in a future episode, but help you to navigate and inspire you to navigate your own personal experience. So first of all, my friends who are on video, I have to apologize. You're going to see me glance down because you guys know I'm neurospicy, and the only way to keep me on track is to have some notes. And so I'm going to be glancing down from time to time to peek at my notes. So here's the deal, is that I knew that this season was going to be different. I thought I had done all the right things to prepare. And of course, preparation sometimes meets us with reality and things adjust. And the most important part of this life experience is to remain agile and move with those changes and not get stuck. And I was really trying to lean into this new season. And that season included me being more kind to myself, more intentional with the things that I choose to do, but also giving myself way more grace in this moment of kind of confusion and uncertainty, right? This season of, I swallowed hard at that moment. If you saw me on camera, this season of uncertainty is one that I am feeling like has been the preparation that I have been navigating over the last 5 or 6 years. This taking of this big leap is exactly what I knew I was going to be prepared for or be preparing for. However, we can do all the things that we want to do to prepare, and life can throw us curveballs and remind us that there are moments of newness that we're going to experience that really are not in our control. And that is the harsh reminder that I'm sure you have gotten time and time again. And we're always receiving those reminders that we are here in co-creation. However, we are not the creators alone, right? We are also experiencing all different factors that are kind of alchemizing into our life experience. And so being agile and allowing ourselves flexibility, giving ourselves grace is so important. And so the truth is, I went into this winter knowing that it's the start of a new year. It's not exactly the most exciting season for me. I thought I had prepared, but nothing prepared me for what I met, which was silence, and silence that was that of waiting, right? And it's like almost that true winter experience, right? It's like, okay, all this energy is harnessed and it's all here. And I am so used to moving with the fire of energy to do something, to receive kind of a call, an inspiration, and something that inspires me then to take action and step out and do something. But in this moment, what I was experiencing was the complete opposite. I was experiencing this invitation to rest and just be, which was scary for a lot of reasons because, as I mentioned, there was uncertainty. As I said, there were some things that changed, right? The plans that I had set out were no more, and now I was going to literally be jumping into this new world, taking this leap into this new world, and feeling like all the that safety net and that kind of trampoline that I like put out for myself when I took the leap was removed, and that in itself had me scared leapless. We're just going to say that. I was terrified. I not only was terrified, but it felt like as I sat in silence and kind of allowed myself to move into this place of rest instead of what I was hoping for would come through, which was like signs and symbols and, kind of blaring lights telling me which direction to go were going to come through, the opposite happened, where I felt like I'm just here. Like, what does one do when I don't know what I'm supposed to do and I'm supposed to just be here? And so this tested trust, deep trust. It tested the capacity to believe that I can be held by what I believe is my creator, God, right? I believe that my higher power had me. Uh, but it was still scary because it was something that I had never experienced, something that for real, just felt like that's for those people over there all of my life. Those people over there can live life and not have everything planned out and it works out for them. My reaction, my response to life has always been, I need to be the one to make sure there's a plan A and a plan B and a plan C. And I'm the one who has to execute upon that plan. And I've been over these number of, I'd say almost 5 to 10 years, been leaning harder into the idea that I can be supported and I can actually trust that others will show up for me, and healing that relationship with others has been a lifelong journey and has been something that has helped me tremendously. However, I had still felt like this place where I can sit back in kind of more passive existence isn't mine. It's not mine. And so that the reality of kind of meeting this part of myself where I now am thrust into this new relationship with trusting, this new relationship with believing, though things are changing, things are evolving. You thought you said all of the right things and have safety nets in place to catch you while you take this leap. There are others, one at least other, the most important other, that has you and that can hold you in this place. And so my awareness is that the season came and everything changed and really felt like it changed overnight. And I can still sit back and allow life to happen for me. And that was new. Have you ever had that kind of experience where you had planned all the things, you thought you had everything right, and then life reminded you, teaching you that harsh lesson that you cannot plan for everything, that life is going to be lifing, and that's okay. That's just a part of it. And so the truth is that what I was leaning into was like this kind of almost forcing myself or I was conflicted with trying to, okay, I've got to rest. Okay, I rested. I did that part. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, okay, arrested, like kind of constantly coming back. It's like I was really trying to do what I had done before, which was trying to hide and run from winter, right? I tried for many years. I was successful for many years, where I just kind of stuffed it all down. This year, it was not happening. This year, I was very much like, okay, I am supposed to pause. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know at the end of the day what that's going to feel like, but I am supposed to pause. And so with that pause, I was faced with a lot of resistance. There was truth, is that winter is meant to be a teacher. I am meant to experience this pause as a lesson of sorts. And part of that lesson is really allowing the truth of my relationship as a symbiotic relationship, and one that is true co-creation, right? Where like it's not me alone. There are things working behind the scenes, though I do not see them, though I do not know that they are happening, though I do not get all of the sights and signs every time that they are happening. I can and should trust that they are happening. And that for me, I think, was the most difficult, was really acknowledging that, okay, sight, signs, synchronicities, okay, maybe there's some acknowledgments, but in this moment, in this pause, I am meant to trust that behind the scenes things are taking place. And I am invited after really 26 years, right? I had the business for 22 years, but I had been doing that work for 26 years. This season, my creator is saying, hey, you can just be like, can you just experience winter for me, please? I got this. I will reveal to you the plans when it's time. And that part for me took weeks and weeks and weeks. And so what was I thought was going to be a typical January, maybe February, I mean, it stretched. Like it was probably a 4 or 5 month experience where I just did not feel like myself. And so that is why you guys, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, know that I paused on recording. That is why things slowed down in my life. I did, of course, have other things going on in the background and other projects that I had been working on, however, or had to show up for as the season eased up. However, the truth is in that time, in those moments, I was in the thick of it and leaning in to this space of uncertainty, this space of allowing life to happen, me trying to revisit this relationship and kind of rewrite, right? I'll speak to this in a different episode because I've been calling it this. It's like in this moment, I was wiping the slate clean. And right now, in this current season, I'm out of my winter and now I'm in this season of recalibration. It's like allowing the old and the new to adjust and alchemize, right? And so that coming together and that allowing it to be experienced in new, right? That it can be the hardest thing is to leave behind these old versions of ourselves and trust that this new version of ourselves is going to be very, very unfamiliar. However, there is wisdom in this new version if we allow that wisdom to come through. And so, have you ever experienced where when you stop resisting like this place, this darkness, this ickness, and I'm calling it this ickness, and just allowed things to happen, like where you were surprised by the outcome, where you're like, wow, okay, I guess I can let my foot off the gas and coast and I can be caught. And I know a lot of us, and I speak from absolute personal experience, have had many a times where like there's these moments where we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop and the other shoe drops and we're like, that's why. See, I get it. You get it. Here's why. This is why it never works out for me. And we have these moments of kind of confirmation that come through, which just don't feel great, right? There's moments where we meet our life and life challenges with, more failure, what feels like or is perceived as failure, even though they're lessons and we glean things maybe from them on the other side. In those moments, it feels like failure. And so we're like, oh, this is why I have to take the reins and I have to hold them tightly until I'm bleeding, right? And so I want to chat with you a little bit about what I did during that time and, the types of things that allowed me to still feel whole in the midst of the darkness and the confusion and that like newness of life experience. And the truth is, it's a one day at a time, a one breath at a time thing. And so this is the kind of stuff that helped me nurture myself during my personal winter. And I am hopeful that some of these things help you find whatever season that you find yourself in those places of slight darkness or challenge, that you are able to experience some kind of supportive healing. And so for me, the most important thing, right, my neurospiciness mixed with my recovering type AAA personality, those two things can make me sit in almost a maniacal and obsessive thought pattern where I can get like deep in this overthought and I'm overthinking, and then I'm anxious, and then I'm like pushing myself to take action, but the actions are like this. They're just all over the place. They're just, I'm moving my hands frantically for those of you who are not watching on video. But it's chaotic and it doesn't always make sense. Even to me in my head, it doesn't make sense. And it feels probably like that to the people around me, where I can sometimes like outwardly express my angst. And in relationship with others, people that I love and care for, they can experience that angst, and it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great for anybody. It doesn't feel great to know that I am projecting my life experience or my fears, true, my fears onto them. And so I invite you to think about the things that help you kind of do what was necessary for me, which is regrounding. So I have my own path to what feels grounding for me. And this comes from years now of trying different things. And so that is my greatest invitation to you, is be willing to try something different and new, and maybe something that you have forgotten. So maybe it's not so different and new, but it's something from your past that you used to enjoy, that you haven't done for years. And this is an opportunity now for you to try that and see if it brings you a sense of peace, a sense of healing, a sense of solace, and allows you to just like breathe more deeply in this space of uncertainty, and in this space of like kind of pause, right? And so what does grounding look like? So for me, grounding is sunlight therapy. Even in the coldest of days, getting out into nature, getting out and feeling and breathing and experiencing nature. I recently planned an episode that I'm excited to share with you, which is a part of my morning process, where I really go out in nature with a bit more intention and allow myself to be more present in nature. I am like a child in nature. I always have been. Again, this is actually a remembering for me, something that I was deeply what's the word? Inspired by as a kid, and like immersed in as often as I could be. And I forgot, like for a whole chunk of my life, forgot how much I just love getting lost in nature. And so now I go out into nature in whatever environment I have nearby, and I have kind of more of an intentional experience in nature. So I'll share that specific process with you in a different episode, because I feel like it would be fun for you to try it out and let me know how it feels for you. And I also believe that when we're out and we're experiencing nature, you're getting kind of this beautiful gift of like two parts, where you're out, you're connecting with nature, you're getting the healing experience of receiving nature through your eyes and all of your senses, right? And allowing yourself to just be for a moment. But then in this experience, you're also moving your body, right? You're walking, you're breathing, you are experiencing this sense of more perhaps mindful movement experience, where you are giving yourselves these moments of pause and appreciation, but also moving, and moving the body is in itself healing. And we talk about that a lot in this space, and we'll continue to. The experiences of nature also for me, I feel like there's just this natural gift of breath, right? Where like we feel the wind, we feel the like literal open spaciousness around us. And so our breath, I think, naturally connects with that and breathes more deeply. And we feel this more kind of openness, right? Because there's literally no ceiling to stop us, right? We have this open space all around us, and that just feels in itself medicinal, right? The other thing that I do is like real nourishing food, right? Hydration, but nourishing food, things that bring you joy, but also bring you the right kind of energy, right? Worst thing that we can do is when we're feeling down and out, and sit in a pot, even though it feels good in those moments, that we just must do it, sit in a pint of ice cream, because it does something within our bodies that doesn't allow it to tap into the nutrients that it needs to bring us the amount of energy that we're going to need, even if that energy is the energy we're going to use for rest. There's actually nourishing foods that we need to have deep rest, right? And so things like pure cherries, just like dark cherries. If you're eating dark cherries or drinking dark cherry organic drinks, like just something that is an example, right? Us recognizing that like we can have something that we take into our bodies that actually gives us a deeper experience with rest and gives us even deeper dreams and dream state, right? Same thing with like teas that we can drink and allow our bodies to have a deeper, more relaxing experience with taking in teas like lavender tea or chamomile or even raspberry tea if you're someone who has a lot of when experiences during your moon or your period for my friends who don't know what a moon is. And so menstrual cycle, I guess, is the formal term. I don't know, whatever. Basically, when you are inviting in your body these types of things that actually support your healing and your life experience, right? Like the things that help you feel held in these moments where either you're feeling a little bit more stressed or a little bit more anxious and unable to lean into rest, or you're feeling physically challenged by your moon and the symptoms that you experience during that period, right? So there are a lot of other kinds of foods that you might find are nourishing for you and your body that maybe I don't find as nourishing, or maybe I just don't like as much. But leaning into that, right? Leaning into those moments where you're like, I actually feel like I've got a lot of thickness and heavy metals and ick, and I need to do a detox. I need to do a cleanse, right? I need to do fast, whatever feels like it's calling to you. Start leaning into that during this time. And the most important piece of my healing, like the absolute overarching theme for me over the last really 3 years has been maybe 4 actually. What are we? Yeah, 4 or 5 years actually has been evolving, is my commitment to daily ritual and my morning flow. So I read this book a number of years ago called The Miracle Morning. I forget Hal Elrod, I think, is the writer of it. And he gives this structure, and this was actually, this was 5+ years ago, or 5+ years ago, because I remember I had read it before going into the pandemic, and I was big into Clubhouse during the pandemic, if you guys remember Clubhouse. And there was multiple clubs, and there probably still are multiple clubs, gathering of people that were getting together to have conversations specifically around how they move through their miracle morning. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. And I started to use this as a better container. Like for me, I do need a template. I need a bit of a guide to help me to create some sense of structure. And part of that is, my neurospiciness, but it's also my Virgo rising. It's like I yearn for, I'm not only Virgo rising, I'm Virgo Mercury. And I think my Venus, I've got like a lot of Virgo in my chart. And so that's what people usually see in me is, yearning for organization and structure and things like that. And I experience life like that and internally sometimes as well. But for me, having somebody give me a template was like life-changing, life-altering. And I live and breathe that template. It has gotten longer. It used to be like I'd spend 20, 30 minutes in it. Now I spend close to 3 hours. And I know that might blow some of y'all's minds, but I spend close to 3 hours in my morning flow. And there are times where I like literally have to wake up super early in order to make that possible. And in it, sometimes I do shrink it down. I give myself grace the whole time. That is necessary. If I need to have a shorter morning ritual, for example, I was traveling recently and I had almost a whole day travel experience. And it was like, all right, I wanted to wake up way before so that I could kind of get some things going, but I needed to leave by 6 a.m. So like, okay, I had like 40 minutes, which felt really great. And then while I was starting to travel, continued some of those other things where it's like, okay, I can't necessarily journal today in my physical journal, which is important for me, but I can do a voice memo to myself and like dialogue and still have a moment of processing in the morning. And so morning ritual. And then now I have introduced what Debbie Brown, I think is her last name, calls recapitulation in the evening. And she talks about essentially in her book, Living with Wisdom, talks about the importance of kind of having this evening review, right? Like, how did the day go? How did you feel about the day? So I do have my evening, and I did already have, I do some prayer and reflection in the evening, but this is now a bit more of a deeper experience. So not a 3-hour experience, more like 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes in the evenings, because I like to get my sleep, love my rest. But yeah, mornings are those are my jams. That's where I have more energy. That's where I feel also because I'm so like fiery and energized, that chaotic energy can come out of me really quickly from my neurospiciness. So like I can immediately jump into the day and it be like bouncing around between, I was going to say 30 things. It's more like 5 or 6 different things. And at the end of the day, feel like I didn't get anything done, which doesn't feel great. And so why I spend so much time in this morning routine, in this morning ritual, it allows me to kind of review all the things that I'm feeling, really get a sense of like how to reground into what my purpose is, what I desire to move into in the day, what I feel like spirit is calling me to, what I feel like I am needing to I'm doing the like reaching out with my hands, but like to reach out. So we'll talk a little bit about human design, but essentially when I have a desire, right, I'm a manifesting generator. And I'll talk about human design in a different episode, but if you want to know, you're curious, I'm a manifesting generator. I can have lots of ideas, but the way that I can allow those ideas to kind of start to take root is to allow myself to generate those ideas and like kind of put them out into the universe in certain ways, and then allow kind of other people to create opportunities then for me to respond. Or I am just putting it out there to myself and dialoguing about it or journaling about it or mind mapping. I love mind mapping about it, and then just leaving it there, and then just kind of waiting and letting that sit and allowing other people to come through so that I can respond to their kind of invitations into this experience of co-creation. And so oftentimes I am kind of like just initiating conversations with people, and not necessarily with like, I'm going to ask you to do this fully with me at all times, but more like, hey, what is your interest? How do you feel about this work and this thing? And getting a sense of how that lands for them. I'm going way too deep into this. I apologize. Okay, let's just reel this in. This is why I need my notes. Okay, so we were talking about daily ritual. Daily ritual. So like me creating this daily ritual for myself, I also spend time really trying to lean into my design. I go through questions around the design, and we'll talk about that in a different episode, my human design, kind of not self themes, and decide what things that I might be experiencing right now that are not in alignment for me, so that I can take action. And kind of that is the outward expression of what I was just describing. Okay. Other thing when I talk about that is like trying to love into the relationships that I care about. So this is something that I legitimately had to take true and full embodied action because I can be so in my head and overly consumed with things that don't matter. Um, Truly, I can sometimes obsess over some things that I feel like are important and all of that. I sometimes can honestly get a little bit involved, and to be totally frank, right? And what does that mean? That means like the people that I care about and the people that I love. So in my hermit mode, sometimes I get so like involved in this like thought of like all of the things I'm meant to do and how I'm meant to show up and what I'm supposed to show up in the world, that I'm actually like alienating the people that I care about, to be truth and to be honest. So like some years ago now, I literally had to write in my journal every day, every week I would do this, the these are the people you need to reach out to. I had my list, and it would just be like people I love, right? And people I love, not just romantically and relationally, family wise, but even my platonic and deep loving relationships with friends and people that I want to nurture and care for those relationships. I very literally wrote their names down in my journal every week, and for a while would have to check off. Did you do the thing? Did you just at least send the voice memo? Did you at least, check in with them? Because I'm just be honest, it didn't come naturally to me. Like I did not have a conditioning that also allowed for that to be where like my family showed me examples of like my family did not show me examples of how to show up for relationships in a way that feels mutually honoring and reciprocal, to be honest, right? Reciprocal. And so I didn't have that, right? The depth of connection and the like need for staying connected to know what's happening in someone's lives and like being present. And not that you're going to be like in someone's life all the time, but the truth is that you need, right? We need these moments. And so being intentional about community and depth of connection and meaningful connection was something absolutely necessary. Um, and so, in this moment, and as I'm like navigating we'll say, staying connected to what helps me experience this winter less harshly, right? These are all things that help me, right? It's staying closely connected to the things that help me stay regulated, my nervous system, my emotional well-being, also the things that I know are helping me and supporting me in that journey, which is staying connected to my community. It's doing the things I enjoy, listening to the music that bring me joy, experiencing nature, which brings me joy, experiencing creation, like initiating and creating new things. That brings me a ton of joy. Being in a place of visioning and co-creation with others brings me joy. So those are all things that I still leaned into, even in my winter, even though in my personal winter, maybe not getting as many waves of inspiration, I still was leaning into relationships with others and the people that I could be super vulnerable with, because some people are not comfortable with sadness and grief, to be honest, right? And I could be totally honest and say that was me. I was not honest with grief. I was not honest. I was maybe not honest with myself with grief, but I was also not comfortable with grief in others and with myself. And so oftentimes because of that, we like hide it. And I have a whole episode I want to talk about that, because that has been a real awareness for me during this personal winter. The awareness during that personal winter is that I was experiencing layers of grief, and of course in a real sense of like loss of family and life and family members and people that I deeply love, but also in this kind of awareness of like grieving things that I thought were going to be and are not, right? Grieving relationships that I thought were going to continue with me, and they were not. And so there's so many parts of disappointment and life changes. Even aging can be a bit of a grieving process, right? Because we are grieving this past version of ourselves, maybe this, younger version of ourselves that felt more vibrant, that felt more whatever, insert whatever word that we might be comparing to our present or a future self that we're, envisioning, that can cause grief. And so I know that this was my experience of this personal winter, was recognizing that I was experiencing grief and I needed to allow myself this time and space to process. And so, I hope that you are finding some of these little tips and things that I did a little bit encouraging, inspiring, and that you maybe be able to play with them a little bit and experiment with them a little bit. But know this, I am still remembering this myself, is that spring will always come, right? When our own personal winters happen, in these moments where we are just feeling like, what the insert your word, It will always come. This season will come to an end. There will be a new season. We will feel invigorated and re-inspired and reawakened to new possibilities, but it does take time. It takes time. It takes allowing. And I say it takes effort. Sometimes the effort comes again in more nuanced ways, where the effort, instead of it being efforting and pushing and going, it's like the effort needs to be placed into the allowing, the incubation period, that darkness to do its work, right? That winter season to um, continue to allow us to be reinvigorated and nourished in a way that we maybe never let ourselves be nourished, or never really allowed ourselves to fully experience this nourishment. And so you're not alone. There are so many of us that are in this space or have been in this space before. Maybe you're not in there right now, but maybe you need to revisit this episode at some point in your life in the future, because you're like, this is what Jasmine was talking about. I promise you, as they used to say in what was that called? Oh my gosh. I'm drawing a blank on the show. It'd be like, winter is coming. You guys know, those of you who know what I'm talking about, know what I'm talking about. Winter is coming. And yes, it's true. Unfortunately, right? This is not going to be my last experience with my personal winter. I know that it was definitely not my first. It was probably the first one that I have felt was the longest. Also was the one that I feel like perhaps is going to be the most fruitful, not just for me and the things that I'm going to kind of be able to share with the world and share with you, but truly just for my own internal well-being, right? The sense of wholeness and the sense of presence that I get to experience on this side of things, so much more yummy. And I'm going to let myself lean into that yummy, let myself feel like all of the what I would think of is like that, like depth of nourishing. I just looked at the clock. It says 11:11. It's exciting. The depth of nourishment, having now allowed my seed in the winter to like take root and ready for growth, right? Ready for like this deepening into the soil and like, this like yummy marriage and alkalimity. Is that the word? The alchemizing with the divine, and Mother Nature like saying, okay, like you're here and I'm ready for all this stuff to flow in a more honoring way, a way that feels like it is it is as I was designed as a human, and the things that I am meant to do in the world. And so I love the idea about the oak seed, right? It's like the seed of an oak tree is tiny, but in it is this like endless potential. And with the right conditions, right soil, and the right timing, magic can happen. And this magnificent oak tree, immovable, unshakable, and there for what feels like centuries, these oak trees live, right? It is powerful force, and the most necessary part for that seed is to allow the nourishment to happen, the conditions to happen for that rooting to take place. And so that's my invitation to you is, what are you doing to nurture your seeds? Can you get quiet enough, even in the season where you're maybe like you're not feeling winter, you're feeling good, you're feeling great, whatever. Even in this season, can you allow yourself to spend these moments of quiet and nourishment and pause to take place, almost in preparation and like priming for what will come, because winter is coming. So All right, that's it for this episode. I'm sorry I went long. I just felt like I really wanted to share with you all of the many layers of my life experience in this moment. We're going to talk a lot more about some of the things I mentioned in today's, like the morning routine, like human design, like my shift. It's been a big shift in business and life. And I'm thrilled to be back and sharing with you. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. And again, we're all on all platforms now, and if you can do all the things to show your love for this podcast, and by commenting, by what do you call that? Rating, giving us the 5 stars and giving the likes and the thumbs up and all that stuff, that would be amazing. It is the best way that you can support me in this space. And let me know how things are going. If you have an experiment that you are trying on your own and in your own life's journey, I would love to be a part of that. And with that said, I will see you all soon. Take care.